EVO.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 2 of Finding Me. I'm so happy that you're here. This is a passion project of mine that I've wanted to do for a long time, and in typical me fashion, have found reasons not to. And I'm done finding reasons not to. This is a daily journal podcast entry to help me become the person I want to be, to help me be the most authentic me, to be accountable to myself, and to really help me shape exactly who I want to be and what I want to put out in the world. For me, authenticity, and whenever I've been truly authentic to me, has been the key to my success in everything, not just professionally, but personally. So I hope you join me on this journey to the most authentic version of yourself. Like I said in episode 1, this is the first thing I've ever done that I don't care about likes or comments or views. This waking up every morning and doing this is a way to hold myself accountable. And accountability and authenticity are two things that I think are sorely lacking, not just in myself, but everywhere out there. And so I'm hoping to do this for me to make me the best version of me, you know? And so on this podcast, we'll talk about health and wellness and habits and goals and marriage and relationships and funny shit and not funny shit, and really whatever strikes me that will help me reach these goals, you know? And I think for now, while I'm still trying to figure out the structure of this and how I want it to go, I think I'm going to start every podcast off with 3 things that I did for myself yesterday. And not, look, I think when people think about doing things for themselves, they're like, you know, I don't want to be selfish. People have this idea that selfish is a bad word. And it can be. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It's like, you know, when they tell you on the plane to put the oxygen mask on you first so you can help other people. That's true in life. You have to be happy with yourself. You have to be good with yourself. You have to love yourself before you can do all that stuff that you want to do for other people. If you notice a little thing on my lip, I'm also experimenting with a bunch of stuff. Right now I'm experimenting with nicotine just to see what I think about it. So I have a Zyn, but I really like these things called knickknacks. But I blew through them so quickly, I had to order some more. So I'm in the Zyn mode. I got to tell you the truth. For me, I don't know. I don't notice anything. But drugs in general, I seem to need, my body seems to need to take more than I would say most people to feel something or to get the desired results. So we'll see. I do have a little bit, you know, I used to dip all the time. You know why I stopped dipping? And I hid it from, you know, the kids. But when Jacob was around 12, he found a can of my dip that I was hiding in the car. And he just walked up to me one day and he was holding it in his hand. And I was like, "Did you steal that?" He goes, "No, I didn't steal it. I just wanted to ask you, are you trying to die?" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Are you trying to die?" And I said, "No." He goes, "You're not trying to die." And I said, "No." He says, "Then why are you doing this? What happens from this?" And he was like, I don't want you to die." but if you want to die, like, this is the long, slow way. And I was like, holy shit. Like, and by the way, it's funny. I did the same thing to my parents when we were younger. And then I'll get to the three things. I'm so sorry. This is the way my brain works. You know, my mom and dad, back before, this was the 80s, they both smoked these big, thick cigars. And I never thought anything in the house. This is when, like, you know, I would get into friends' parents' car and it was the winter in Massachusetts and they were just smoking cigarettes, windows rolled up, heat on, you know, and it was like a Cheech and Chong car. But nobody, you stepped out of your friend's car and you smelled like you smoked a pack of cigarettes because you almost did. But I remember saying to my parents, I didn't really think anything of it. And then I was at school one day and I said something to my friend, like we were trading insults. And he goes, dude, your mom smokes cigars. And I didn't know any different. I go, so? And he goes, your mom? And I go, what's weird about that? And all my other friends were like, it's kind of fucking weird, dude. So I went home and I guilted them too. I brought home a book from the library, pre-internet, with pictures of smokers' lungs in their mouths. And I was like, is this what you want to happen? But in reality, I was doing it because I was embarrassed. My mom smoked cigars, but Jacob did it actually because he cared about me. Anyways, so the three things that I did for myself yesterday. Thing number one, and most importantly, is I did this podcast. And I've never put work in before with like a notebook and shit and written things down and planned things out. I've always been a seat of the pants kind of guy. And this change feels really good to me. So thing number one for me, I did this podcast. Thing number two I did is I set a doctor's appointment. I have something physically that's happening with me right now that I don't want to get into because I don't want to put it out in the universe. And I don't, you know, and I'll, if there's nothing there, then there's no reason for me to talk about it. But I'm usually a guy who avoids doctor's appointments. And I found out last year, October or September, for those of you who know, when I was in the hospital, the only reason I was in the hospital is because I didn't go to the doctor for 3 weeks and ended up real sick on the infectious disease floor. And it was a big bummer. Lost 30 pounds, all that shit. So doctor's appointment, big step for me. And then the other thing I did, you know, I've always been a person on my social media who's just let people leave comments. You know, their opinion is their opinion and all that shit. And I would let it go, but out of grace for them, you know, and I'm big on grace. But then I started thinking, but this isn't their page. And I don't want that kind of energy. It's not about critiquing my comedy. I don't really give a shit about that. But if you're making divisive comments, political comments on my page, I'm out on that. And I'll simply tell you, unfollow, or I'll do it for you. You know, I'll just make sure that person isn't following the page. Because again, the difference between nice and kind to me and Freddie Prinze Jr. really taught me this is kind. You can still be kind and give your opinion. There's nothing wrong with your opinion. You can be kind and be like, nah, I don't want that. I don't want that around me. And do it, you know. Nice is, to me, the difference is kind is you're also thinking of yourself, and nice is people pleasing. And I'm not on board for the people pleasing anymore, you know. So there were some comments on my Facebook page that were, because I posted, I am so lucky and so grateful that my residency at Kimmel's here in Vegas got pushed from 1 night to 2 nights, which is so amazing. And somebody was like, Kimmel's, you know, basically, I'm not going to do that. I'll support you on the road. And my comment back to him was, if you're supportive of me, I perform at Kimmel's and I perform on stage with Kid Rock. I if your support is unconditional, I'm not interested in it. I mean, if your support is conditional, I'm not interested in it. I'm just not. You're not, you know what I mean? I'm not. It'd be one thing if I was doing a anti-Trump rally with Kimmel, or I was, doing a, fuck the Dems show with Kid Rock, which I'm not. I'm not interested in that either. And I want you all to know, people ask my opinions on politics a lot. I have them in spades. I know what I believe. I know what I think. I don't give those opinions publicly only because so many people do. If nobody was, I would. But I feel like those voices it's just like white noise now. And everything's so divisive and no nuance. And I want to give people a different option. That's it. If nobody was giving opinions, I sure the fuck would. But I feel like there's enough people chiming in. And if I'm having a conversation with you and you ask my opinion, I'll give it to you. I'm not scared. I'm not going to be like, well, I don't want to. You ask me something, I'm going to give you an answer. My dad said to me something once, this was one of the most impactful moments of my life. He said something to me once, probably 10 years ago, about, he said something to me because I had put on the roast of David Ortiz, which was basically like the first athlete roast in Boston during his retirement at the House of Blues. It was amazing. So fucking funny. Anthony Mackie, Rob Gronkowski, Adam Ray, Bill Burr, Sarah Tiana, Dustin Pedroia, list goes on and on. It was Lenny Clark. It was amazing. And Nesson, which is a Boston network, New England Sports Network, bought it because they thought, well, let's air this roast. But it was a roast. I don't think and they buried it. But it was so successful and so fucking funny. I remember my dad saying to me once, have you ever thought about producing shows? You're so good at it. And he said, if this comedy thing doesn't work out. And it struck such a nerve with me when he said comedy thing that I laid into him a little bit. I was like, what do you mean comedy thing? You mean my job? You mean the thing that I've been working to do for, at that point, 15 years? Comedy thing. And I was like, no, it's the producing thing. It was just one thing. And I laid into him a little bit. And I went up to my room and I really had a tough time that night. I didn't sleep well, shed a few tears. He's such a good guy. And my parents have always been so supportive of my dreams. And I woke up the next morning and went right down to breakfast. And I told him, I said, dude, I apologize. I really laid into you. And I know what your heart was. And I know what you didn't mean to insult me. And I'm really sorry. And he said something to me that was so impactful. He was like, what are you apologizing for? I asked you a question and you answered it very honestly. He said, if you don't want to hear an answer to a question, don't ask it. But you don't get to judge somebody's answer to your question just because you don't like it, right? That's how usually we all get, usually, not all the time, but usually the reason you're mad is because somebody or something isn't behaving in a way that you want them to. And his message was, you don't get to control that. You don't want to hear the answer. Don't ask the question, And so that was very, very impactful for me. But yeah, I've decided that shit is not going to live on my page if I see it. I don't look at a lot. Every now and then I'll go through some comments and just answer. I don't see all of them, so I'm sure there's a bunch that I miss. But I'm not about being nice. I'm about being kind to myself and to other people, man. Look, I'm a pretty kind dude. But not at the expense of me anymore. I really do. I had a friend of mine one of my oldest friends in comedy, a woman named Trish Sir, say to me, she's like, you really ought to lean into, you're like a modern day stoner Mr. Rogers with your cardigans and shit. And I love that. I love that idea of trying to spread kindness and grace in a world where, for whatever reason, empathy from a large part of the population is seen as weakness. Kindness is apologies, admitting you're wrong is seen as weakness. I think the exact opposite. I think the empathy is strength. I think being able to apologize when you're wrong or admitting you're wrong, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. People make mistakes. People do. Nobody's perfect. Yo, there was a period of time in my life, and I'll get into the mold part. I had real bad mold toxicity for a while where I was not myself. I lost friends. I looked at some emails I sent to people. I was paranoid. I was anxious. I was angry. I was quick to anger, man. Yo, I'm a real, I have so much gratitude, and I understand customer service because I worked in it for so long. And if you've ever seen my live show, except the one in Vegas, I do like a 5-minute tip speech. But there was a year there where I said some shit to people on customer service lines because you know what I mean? If I went back and heard any of those recordings, I'd be humiliated, embarrassed at how I behaved. But I don't judge that on my character. We all have moments where we're like, if you took the top 5 worst moments of people's lives or things that they've said out loud or to other people, top 5 worst, you would hate everybody, including yourself. But this idea of this modern day Mr. Rogers, the idea of that, I kind of dig. So, I'm gonna play around with that and see how that shapes and takes form. But yeah, man. So top 3 things that I did for myself yesterday: this podcast, the doctor's appointment, and being true to who I want to be and the energy that I want on my pages. I had somebody be like, this is free speech. I can say what I want. True. But this is my page. And by the way, it'd be different if I was charging you. If it was like subscription, if I charged you $10 a month, you can say whatever the fuck you want, but it's free. It's free. It's funny to me how critical people get of free entertainment. It's all free entertainment now, and people are just churning it out, So those are the top 3 things I did for myself. I did my walk. I walked 3.2 miles yesterday. I think that's what it said. I have been out of the gym for a couple of days, but I'm going back in today. I've been out of the gym just because I've been sick. Like I said, I'm happy to post that kind of diet, nutrition, fitness stuff. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. We're setting up an email for the show. But let me get into, this week was the first week of my double night residency. And Sunday night was the first night of the residency. And I'm so fucking, one of the goals that I made for myself when I got here was I want to do 2 nights a week in Vegas. And it happened. It happened. And it just shows me like the power of your brain. If you're focused, if you have energy, if you're pointing the arrow in one direction, how often that arrow actually hits its mark. But I will say, and I'm so, my goal, there's one thing about me being on stage that I I really do struggle with. Um, and that is the new material experimentation part of it. Because I'm caught between this. The only way to get better is to experiment and to try new shit and to push yourself and to talk about things or try things in a way, I've been doing it a long time. And I've always been a storyteller and, wanting to maybe get into more concise, like observational shit. But the only way to do that is to practice it. But I do, and I can't decide if this is people pleasing or not. But I also am very cognizant of the people who come to my shows and what they paid for. And I'm not talking about standing on stage and doing an hour of old material I know works. But Sunday night, I did catch myself. I was like, oh, I want to just kind of get on stage and riff on this stuff and see what happens. But then I'm really cognizant of you, especially in Vegas. You paid money, and those tickets are a little more expensive. You paid money, or on the road, you left your house, you got a babysitter, to come see my show. You didn't come to see me, try an hour of new shit. So I really need to find the balance between respecting you and respecting me. And I haven't quite found it yet. I think maybe I might do like in the middle of the stuff that I am truly working on that I know hits. I might sandwich that with just new. Is kind of what I'm leaning into to see if that structure works for me. I will say, guys, if you haven't come to the shows, they are so fucking good. I'm not saying I'm for everybody. I'm not. This is the best thing about comedy and art is there's so much of it out there. I don't get offended when people are like, you're not funny. Yeah, cool. There are so many successful comics that I'm like, yeah, that's not for me. But I don't think they're bad at their job. I'm just not the demo. That's not the material. That's not the style that I am into. So never hurts my feelings when people look, you're not funny. So I'm not worried about that. But I am worried about making sure that I respect both of us in this process. So something I am definitely working on for myself. I did add, yesterday I was talking about the things that I want to make sure I do every morning to make myself feel good, or every day. And the list yesterday, I believe, was, the vitamins and supplements and all that stuff, the gym, the walk with Indiana Jones, which includes meditation because the walk is very meditative, but I do a walking meditation. I hit my gratitude today on the walk. But the other thing that I think is going to be very important for me every day, and it doesn't have to be in the morning, is to connect. We're such a, the human connection is the key to all of us. We're storytellers at heart, dude. That's how we pass things down from generation to generation. It's all stories. I mean, the Bible, I'm not a religious dude. The Bible is just a book of stories, right? Whether you believe they're true or not, it's a book of stories. This is the basis of how we communicate with each other, So I think connection, super important. I want to make sure that I am hitting my human connection every day. I did find also yesterday I had a little bit of revelation as my demons, and I have the same demons that pop up all the time, have been popping up a lot lately. And I find that my demons pop up not when things are going poorly, but when things are going well. And I've figured out why. I talked to a friend of mine who's in recovery and a guy that I go to a bunch when I have times like this. And he was like, no, it makes sense. When things are going bad, you're already in chaos. And that means that something happened or you are comfortable in the chaos. So your demons don't need to come out. They're already there in a different form. But when things are going well, that's when your brain's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We're not comfortable in good. We're not comfortable in calm. We're not comfortable in peace. Let's shake things up by you fucking up. And I recognized that yesterday as I started to feel so good and so good about myself and so calm. And this desperation that drove me for a lot of my career is gone. Well, not gone. Not gone. Let me get to that. And let me just write a little note for myself. It's not gone, but I recognize it now. And I recognize it when it pops up. And so I just feel like I have to get comfortable in the happy and the peace and the calm, because that's where I want to live. I don't want the chaos. I don't want the drama. I don't want the anger. I don't want any of it anymore. I remember one time, and if I'm a little groggy, I took a Xanax last night for the first time in probably 6 months because I couldn't sleep. But I remember in Nashville when I was beginning this journey of really getting into like listening to self-help and people like Jim Fortin, Fortin, I forget his last name. I remember in mushrooms had started to help me. And I remember taking a walk with Indiana Jones late one night and screaming at the sky, whatever it is that's inside me that is making me feel this way. Whatever, I don't need you anymore. I don't know if you think you're trying to protect me, but I don't need you. Get out, get out, get out. It was a crazy screaming, get out, get out. I don't need you anymore. Whatever energy's in there, it's pushing me down this path of desperation. One of the things that I noticed when I left LA, towards the end of my time in LA, looking back, I do not like that person. I had become a dude who was envious, and I compared myself to my friends, and I wasn't as happy for my friend's success because I was more curious about why I didn't have it, And I worked in Nashville, and still it pops up every now and then. Still, that why not me? It comes up every now and then. I think probably for everybody. But that night in Nashville, screaming at the sky, why not me? Dude, I remember a neighbor was looking out there. I saw them just looking out the window like, who the fuck? I was screaming, get out, get out, get out. One guy screamed, shut up, shut up. It was late. Shut up. I was probably screaming a little loud in front of his house, but that process of figuring out who that guy was and why, I didn't realize it till I left LA. It was such a good move for me not being there and not being there now. And by the way, I'm not a guy. This people beating up Los Angeles and people in Hollywood, to me, is so silly. I mean, even if you think Hollywood is filled with pedophiles, even if you think it is, and I don't know. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but nobody that I've ever met. But even if you think it is, it's not. All the bad people are not in Hollywood, everybody. They're in every business. I mean, if you really want to scream about pedophiles, I think you know where to look. You know what I mean? These same people screaming about pedophiles still bring their kids to church, where it seems like a bunch of them are hanging out. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm not a dude who's bashing LA, and it's good for a lot of people. And at a certain, I'm glad I was there during that age period I was there. I just stayed probably 2 years too long. But LA for an artist is great. You do have to fight the comparison, and you do have to fight the desperation that particular industry breeds. But if you can fight through it, there's so many creative people there. And to be pushed, I've never wanted to be big fish, small pond. That's not how you get great, you know? And so I'm not those dudes in Austin who are like, fucking LA. That's not me. I had some great experiences there. I met my wife there. You know, I raised kids there. My brothers live there. Some of the best friends I've made in the world, I made there. So, yeah. What else did I want to get into today? Okay. I do want to get into, you know, a lot of people talk to me about Beth and I, and, you know, about relationship goals and all this stuff. Oh, wait. Am I already at 27 minutes? There's no way. Holy shit. Oh, guys, I think that's it. Oh, my Lord. There's no way that happened that fast. Okay. I may have to rethink this 15-minute thing. If you guys know me, I could talk for 9 hours, but I don't want this to be that. So let's tap out. Tomorrow I'll have an email for all you guys, or any of you who are listening, watching. Just if you want to ask questions but I want to remind you, I'm not a guru. I'm not a self-help guy. I'm not an expert. I'm just a dude. And I'm just a dude who's trying to find his way, just like you're trying to find your way. And I don't think there's an age limit for this. I don't think you trying to be the best version of yourself is something that can't happen at 40, 50, 60, 70. There's no time that's too late for you to feel good about yourself. There's no time that's too late for you to try that thing you've always wanted to try, to start that business you always wanted to start. There's no such thing. To get in the shape you want to get into, to eat the way you want to eat. None of that. It's never too late. And so, yeah, I'm going to have to go back through my notes. I have this whole notebook of notes of things that I want to talk about. And I will have to get them in order. That's another thing I want to start to be able to do, which is to figure out how to be more organized on the run of show here. I know I'm always going to go off into directions, but I need to have a spine so I can kind of deliver the message I want to deliver every show. And I think that's it. I think that's it for today. I want to give a shout out to these dudes, these bird brain guys. I met these guys when they were 14, 15 years old. They had just a couple of hoodies at a kiosk in a mall in Cincinnati, and their mom was there. These young dudes started this brand by themselves. They designed everything by themselves. They went from a kiosk to brick and mortar to now that they got guys in the NBA wearing their stuff. I support their hustle. I support their drive. I support their vision and their creativity, and they're good kids. Good fucking kids, man. So if you're looking, I promise you, if you have kids, go on their site. They're going to love it. And they don't have back stock. If you see a hoodie you like and you miss it, you're never going to see it again. They're constantly creating, constantly pushing themselves. So I do want to, when I can, shout out small business people. And if you're kids, they're going to like this bird brain stuff. It is so fucking cool. They have one shirt that just says, not for everyone, which I fucking love. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me on Finding Me, episode 2. I hope we take this journey together and you end up getting as much out of it or more than I do. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on Finding Me, my friends. I hope this leads both of us, all of us, both of us, like there's only one person. I hope this leads all of us to a more authentic version of ourselves. Love you. Be good to each other. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.